Hi everyone and welcome to a new video. So today we are going over my Magical Readathon TBR. In principle this is my August TBR, but Magical Readathon is starting 3 days early, which means that this has some overlap with my July reading and so with my reading for my own Readathon, Game Nightathon. But so, without any further ado, let's go into the TBR section. So I am doing the 2 callings for the Magical Readathon. So if you don't know, Magical Readathon is like a sort of like build your own character type of readathon in which you kind of further your character throughout their years at university. And so my character is basically a sort of like spy assassin type of character, and so she's combining 2 callings. One is the one that like she's officially going for, and the other one she's kind of letting people like think that she's taking those classes just for fun, but actually secretly she's trying to establish those like powers. So she is officially learning to be a rift architect who can open portals, but unofficially she's also illusionist rogue, so somebody who tries to spin illusions, which will come in handy when it comes to her actual profession. But so for these 2 callings I do have to read quite a fair bit, so let's just get through it. There are also some things that I will be reading for the Cat Lady Readathon, for example, and then I just have some that I haven't really placed into the Readathon, but there are also just some prompts that are Readathon related that are like that I haven't filled in yet, so I'll give you some of my options for those, but I will kind of decide spur of the moment, I guess, what I will do for those. I mean, I'll most likely read certain books for it, but I haven't really like narrowed it down yet because they are so open. But so, let's start off with the Illusionist Rogue. Calling for Illusionist Rogue, the first thing that I have to do is the class of Shapeshifting, where we are studying the formation of fangs. And so for this prompt you have to read a book featuring vampires. Now, this is probably already the time to talk about a few things that I'm reading at this point in time. So I am going to be trying to get through 4 volumes of the Buffy comic book series. And so for this particular prompt I'm going to be reading Angel Volume 2, City of Demons. And why the moment I sit down does the light disappear? I had to lower the ISO because of the fact that it was way too exposed earlier, and now of course the light has gone down. So I think I'm still okay in terms of lighting. My apologies if I'm way too dark. But so, Angel Volume 2, City of Demons. So this is a modernization, I guess, of the Angel and Buffy TV series. From the start of the first comic in the Buffy series, we see a lot more diversity, for example, coming in straight away, and a lot of the thematics that maybe come in later within the series come in from the beginning. Now, Angel is not my favorite TV show. I hadn't watched it when I was a child neither, so I have zero nostalgia for it, and I don't like the character of Angel, but I did pretty much enjoy the first volume. This is not the first one that I will be reading this month, because in the reading order this is the second one that I have to read at this point in time, but it is the first prompt coming up, and thanks fate. Yeah. Move. Cat interlude over. So this is the second, no, not over yet. This is the second one that I have to read for that. So this setup is already not working out if this is what's going to happen. Second step. Why? It's getting even more dark now. Great. Alright, upped the ISO a little bit. I guess we'll just have to deal with Cat's presence. But so the second studies that I have to take part in is the Art of Illusion, and in this one I need to get a D grade, so I need to take 3 classes in this one. Yeah, thanks fate. Yeah. So the first class is the Art of Levitation, so read a book without touching the floor. Now for this one, to be fair, I can pick whatever book I want, but I'm gonna put a book here that I'm still gonna try to read within the month of July, and that is the book Cats by Polly something. This filming session is turning out to be complete chaos, and I hope you're liking it. So the book Cat by Polly Faber. To be fair, I don't know anything about this book. I just saw it pop up on certain people's plans for August, and then when I needed a book spur of the moment, I was like, hey, you know what? Let me just like read this book. But it's a book featuring a cat, told from the perspective of a cat. I needed a non-human POV for my readathon, so hey, here we are. So next up we have voice altering, which is a prompt that you need to fulfill by reading an audiobook, or I guess listening to an audiobook. For that one, I am going to be reading Ship of Destiny by Robin Hobb. I've gone through the audiobook for all of these because that's my way to get through these big chunky books. Ship of the Destiny is the concluding novel in... so dark again. Why? I hope it's at least coming across as like very aesthetic, but like I've already upped the ISO. Should I up it some more? Let's stick with this. So it is the concluding novel in the Lifeship Trader series, which in principle is like the second series in the Realm of the Elderlings, though you can start with this series and read the first series at a later point in time if you prefer. So in this one we're looking at this thing called life ships. Basically a life ship is a ship that comes to life if 3 generations of captains die aboard the ship and then the figurehead comes alive. A life ship is a huge investment, and we are at the start of this series, we are about to see this investment take fruition. I absolutely adored this first book and the second book in this series. I gave both of these 5 stars. I absolutely adore them. I'm very eager to see what will happen with book 3, and I do need to up that ISO. Alright, if the sun comes back, this is gonna be a huge glare on the screen, but let's assume that that's not gonna happen. It's getting so dark that I assume it's about to go and rain or storm, I guess, because it's like the middle of the day and all of a sudden it's like super dark out here. But so, next up we get to the D prompt for the Art of Illusion, so the 3rd class, which is Disguise Skills for Emergencies, a book featuring no magic. Now, I'm making an assumption here, and maybe I'll have to choose a different book for it at some point in time, because it does have the potential, I guess, for having magic in it, especially since I know nothing about the premise. So this is Days at the Morisaki Bookshop by Satoshi Yagisawa. This is a Japanese book. It is a book that features a cat on the cover, which is why I'm reading it for the Cat Lady Readathon. But all I know is that it's a Japanese book featuring a bookshop and a cat, and that's all I need to know. I don't actually think the cat will play a huge part in its premise, but who knows. But yeah, I love Japanese literature. I love books taking place in bookshops. So here's hoping that I'll love this book, and I'm just gonna assume it has no magic in it, but it's always possible for this to be somewhat like magical realist or something like that. So in that case, I will have to kind of change it out. And then the final class that I have to take to become a illusionist rogue is Psionics and Divination, in which I only have to take 1 class, so only the O level. And so the class that I need to follow is the Introduction to Tarot, and for that I need to do a random tarot generation. Like, I'm going to screen share my screen at this point in time, because this is one that I did not prepare in advance, because I wanted to do it at the moment in which I was sharing this guy, in which I was filming this together with you guys. So I am going to screen grab at this point in time. How does that work again? Screen recording. Yes, please. Alright, so random tarot generator. I don't think I can share much of that on the screen because it is so small. But so we have that one, which I don't think you will see, but you will see on the recording. It's called the High Priestess. Okay. So from this point onwards, I've just saved the screen recording, but I will also take a picture of this tarot card so that I can share it on the screen with you guys. But interesting. The High Priestess. That's not gonna fit in with anything that I have planned, right? Now it can be any element that is on this tarot card. So it doesn't have to be like the main element. So what do we have? We have 2 pillars. We have the letter B, the letter J. I don't know whether I can do anything with that. The pillars are sort of like Egyptian style, I want to say. I want to say that that is like a lotus pillar. Then you have a moon at the bottom of her robe. You obviously have this woman wearing a robe, which it has some Egyptian inspiration as well. Like the shape of the crown is wrong, but it also has like the sun on it, as it is the case for a lot of Egyptian, how do you say that, imagery. Behind her are some like fruits, I want to say, and some palm trees. The fruit would be like, I kind of want to say a pomegranate, but I don't think it's a pomegranate, more like although it may have that shape, maybe it's pomegranate, I don't know. She is holding a book. She has a cross on her chest. So what am I gonna do here? I could kind of go with the moon to take something like Marked by PC Cast, which I've been craving rereading, which would probably be an easy thing to do. The whole sort of like priestess thing makes me think of like, there's a series by Trudy Canavan, which has a female character who becomes a sort of like, or is training to be some sort of a priestess character. Honestly, the pomegranates or anything like that would just steer me towards, what is it, Twilight thing, so no thank you. Something Egyptian-esque. I don't know, because I haven't received my Illumicrate book yet, but I know it's inspired, it's African inspired, I think, and it might actually be Egyptian inspired, in which case that could be a good fit, because that is the Jassat Air. It is too long for my wishes. I'm gonna need time for this, guys. I should not have done this on the fly, but I won't give you an answer during this video, but you can give me suggestions in the comments, I think, because I don't know what to do with this one. But so, after we finish this God knows which book of God knows how many pages, I will have completed my Illusionist Rogue career, and so aside from that, I'm of course also looking at the Rift Architect calling, and for that I need to take 3 studies, and I need to take in total 7 classes. So 7 books. There was no overlap this time with Illusionist Rogue. In previous semesters that has been the case, but this time no. So the first studies is the studies of inscription, in which I need to get a Q mark, so 2 books. First one is Glyph Tidy, read a book that is on your end of year TBR. Now I don't really have like a yearly TBR or something like that, but definitely what I've been focusing on in this year is taking part in the Kushiel Along. So that is a read along for the Kushiel universe by Jacqueline Carey. We are on to Kushiel's Scion, which is the first in a new trilogy. So we've completed the Phaedra trilogy, which was focusing on the character of Phaedra, and now we are reading a second trilogy which is focused on a character that is introduced in the 3rd book in the Kushiel series. I don't know what to expect. Apparently Sarah, who is the organizer of it, has already started, and she's already like madly in love with the character that we're reading from now, and is like so protective of him, and so I'm hoping that I will have the same sort of reaction. I will actually start it today still, so I'm very much looking forward to that. So I'm not going to give you any sort of synopsis for this book. I'll give you a synopsis for the first book, which is Kushiel's Dart, in which we are looking at a character called Phaedra, who is touched by the god. She's touched by a sort of punisher god, and so as part of her touched by godness, she takes pleasure out of pain. So she is in sort of like ideal circumstance to pursue a career as a courtesan, and she will use her courtesan calling to spy and uncover plots within the court. which actually makes me think that if it's somewhat similar, this one could have also counted for a different prompt that I have later on, but you know, if need be, I can just switch them. The Q prompt for this studies is Warts and Shields, a book with a shield on the cover or in the title. This took me like, I didn't even have one for this, but when I brought up that I didn't know which one to choose for it, somebody luckily helped me out and told me that Legends and Lattes in the UK cover edition does have a shield on it, so I will be listening to, or reading I guess, Legends and Latte. I have it as an ebook and I don't think I have access to the audiobook, so I'll probably be reading it. So Legends and Lattes is a cozy fantasy book that kind of started a whole trend of cozy fantasy that's very popular recently on BookTube. Basically when this book came out, people were starting to find out that this is a subgenre that exists, and so I don't know anything about it except that it features orcs who are trying to run a cafe. So it sounds very cozy, it's perfect for like the transition into autumn, so I'm very much looking forward to finally prioritizing this book because it's been one that I've been meaning to get around to for a while, and so I'm eager to finally put it on there. Next up we have the studies of spells and incantation. In this one I have to acquire a D mark, so I have to take 3 classes. First class is Charm, Short Trip, so read a comic, a manga or a graphic novel. For this one I will be putting Buffy Volume 3 in there, which is the first one in the order that I need to read. I will be reading it later today or tomorrow, but in any case still within the month of July. Second class is Incantation Black Fire. Read a book with a black cover or fire on the cover. Now it isn't fully black, but I think it is dark enough to fit with this prompt, and that is A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher, which I know nothing about except for that it is a haunted house novel. This book was being read by a few people over on the Patreon of the Wild Sasha last month. I didn't get around to it, so I'm very eager to finally do get around to it and see people's opinion about it. I have read only one T. Kingfisher previously, which is Nettle and Bone. I really enjoyed that one a whole lot, so I'm eager to see whether T. Kingfisher is an author for me by like reading more of her works and figuring out whether, you know, I should just like auto pick up every single one of her books in future or not. Next up we have The Dome of Silence, Read a Book in Silence. For this one I haven't picked a prompt yet. I basically do most of my reading in silence. Like I don't typically have anything on in the background except for the meowing of my cats. I don't think I can keep Buffy from meowing. I mean, sometimes it happens. She's not meowing right now, for example, so I have to find the lucky time period in which she's not meowing or what for it to actually count as read in silence, but I don't think that G will hold it against me if my cats meow during my time. But so options for this would of course be the next volume of Buffy. So this is Buffy and Angel Hellmouth edition. So this is a crossover between Buffy and Angel, and that would be the next comic that I would have to read within this order. So it's definitely the one that I'm going to read this month. I just don't know whether it will be for that prompt or whether I will just read it additionally to my TBR. And then the final sort of like studies that I need to complete is Conjuration, in which I need to get a Q mark. So for my first level Ghostly Etiquette, read a court or royal book. I'm going to be reading The Justice of Kings by Richard Swan, I think his name is. This is a book for the Howling Pack, which is hosted by Sasha from the channel The Wild Sasha. This is, as far as I'm aware, a court book because we are following the aide to one of the biggest judges, sort of this realm. And as far as I'm aware, it has a lot of court intrigue and stuff like that. So I'm going to assume it counts for court book. If not, I guess I will hopefully be able to count Kushiel's Scion for this and be able to put this as my end of year TBR. I try to take part in the Howling Pack as much as possible, but sometimes the books just don't interest me and then I do allow myself to just say no. But so The Justice of Kings is a book that I had on my ebooks already, and I think I also nominated this one for the previous rounds of the Howling Pack, so it's definitely one that I've been interested in, so it's definitely one that I want to read and see what I feel about it, because I know that there are some mixed opinions about it. It was getting a lot of early hype and then a lot of people were reading it and kind of bored by it. When people say that they're bored by a book, it actually is like a reason for me to be like, probably I will get along with it, so hopefully that will turn out to be true for Justice of Kings. And then the final book that is on my magical Readathon TBR is a book, so A Spirit Communication is the name of the class. you need to read a book inspired or set in a different culture. I have switched this one out to Greek Lessons by Han Kang. I originally had The Day the Sun Died by who is it? All of a sudden I don't remember his name anymore. Yan Chang? I'm not entirely sure. It'll be on the screen. That one originally was in there, but I actually figured out that in order to like maximize my points for my readathon, because this is another book that I'm still gonna read this month, I don't need that page length, so I'm fine with the shorter page length that is Greek Lessons by Han Kang. So Han Kang is an author that I've had mixed experiences with. I was like unsure about my experience with The Vegetarian, which is the most famous work, and then I absolutely like adored Human Acts, which is a very difficult book, a very hard-hitting book, dealing with a very difficult page in history, but it was amazing to read, and I was so moved by that book. So then Han Kang became a sort of like automatic author that I need to investigate more, because I had such a good experience with that book that I was like, I need to find out if she has more of these types of books. Greek Lessons is a new release. We are looking at a woman who goes to Greek classes, and she and her teacher bond over shared experiences. I think it's going to be over shared feelings of loneliness and alienation, but I'm not entirely sure about that. Her teacher is also dealing with the loss of sight, and so it's also looking into aging and the sort of feelings surrounding that. Yeah, I'm very hopeful when it comes to this book. I'm hoping it's more like my experience with Human Acts and less like my experience with The Vegetarian, though I do want to reread The Vegetarian at some point, because as I said, my experience with that was like being, what did I think about this book at the end of it, because I didn't really know whether I understood it, what my feelings were about it, so a reread might benefit this experience. So as I indicated, that is the final book I needed to read for Magical Readathon. I do have another book on my sort of like TBR for August, and that is another cat book. So for Cat Lady Readathon, I also want to read The Masterful Cat is Depressed Again Today, which is a manga, so another short read. And as I indicated, Buffy is difficult to keep quiet. I don't know whether you hear her, but she has started meowing. But so that is a manga. It's very short, I'm assuming, but I'm hopeful that I'm going to really enjoy it and that I'll get more of the books within this manga series. But so yeah, I saw this one recently pop by on my Instagram feed, and I was like, oh yeah, this will be a great book for Cat Lady Readathon. Now, it's finally started that rain. Now it is time for me to indicate that there is a complication with the month of August, and that complication is the Booker Prize. So the Booker Prize long list is being announced on the 1st of August, which is late. Usually it is like mid to late July, but so now it is only in August. We do get longer before the shortlist, so we have 2 full months more or less before the shortlist is announced at the end of September. And even though I said I wasn't going to do the Booker anymore, I do now feel the urge to give it another go. So I might try to read not the entire long list, but quite a few books on the long list, the books that interest me, but that would be an issue considering the length of this TBR already. So I don't know whether I'll be able to add anything to this TBR in August, but it is potentially the case that I'm gonna do that. It is even potentially the case that I'm gonna replace some of the books on this list with some of the books from the long list in order to get some progress in this TBR before we go over into September, and it's like I feel the deadline stress at that point in time or something like that. So that is an issue, so that is a possibility that that's going to happen. And another book that I plan to read that didn't make it onto this TBR is Destiny of the Dead by Cal Kate. This is the sequel to The Fate of the Fallen, which I read in the month of July. This is also a gift from Tufty, so thank you so much. I'm finally gonna get to it. This is definitely gonna happen, but I only have access to the audiobook by the end of the month, and the audiobooks for all of Cal Kate's works are really great. I really love the audiobook narrator, so I will definitely wait for that audiobook in order to dive into this one. So in this one we are following the Chosen One, but we're not actually following the Chosen One, we're following his best friend, because like 5 minutes into this book, the Chosen One actually dies, and so his best friend kind of takes up the mantle of responsibility, let's say, whereas everybody in this world seems convinced that if he's dead, then nothing can be done anymore, and there's no point in trying to fight the bad guys anymore because we've already lost, because the chosen one has died. So it definitely kind of explores that whole concept of the chosen one and kind of subverts it. It also kind of subverts the concept of prophecy as well throughout the first book already, and so I'm eager to see where we go with book 2, because I've just re-listened to book 1 and I didn't remember that it just like ends so abruptly, and I wanted to immediately go into book 2, but I'll have to wait until the end of the month for it, because only on the 29th I think I will have access to it. So thanks script, thanks for that. And then the final thing on here that also is not on the official Magical Readathon TBR is Buffy the Vampire Slayer Chosen One. So if I get to all 3 of these, I am now allowed to finish Buffy the Vampire Slayer Chosen Ones. I've already read like half of this, because in the reading order, half of this was able to be read like earlier on, and then the second half you had to wait until after those 3 stories. So I'm hoping to finish this one, because on the 16th of August I think this has been on my TBR for a year, and so ideally I finish it at that point in time, so that I don't go over the 1-year limit that I set myself. But for a very long time already I've been saying that this was the exception because of that fact, because of having to read half of it earlier and then the second half had to wait until I read other books in the series. So we'll see if it gets read in August. I don't really care whether it's a few days after that deadline or not. But so yeah, that is more or less my August TBR. Wish me luck. It's a lengthy one, but quite a few of these should be read already within the month of July. So that is helpful, of course, for this very long TBR. But so, I'm gonna end this video here. Definitely help me out with that tarot card, because I have no idea, but hopefully there's a book about high priestesses that makes it onto the Booker long list. Doubtful though. So yeah, with that I'm gonna end this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and see you guys for the next one. Bye!